Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. This is a really exciting event. We're so glad to be partnering with ProductTank Orlando, which a lot of us attend both events. Like from ProductTank Orlando, go to Downtown Orlando UX. Some folks from Downtown Orlando UX go to ProductTank Orlando. There's a lot of overlap. So we've been talking for a long time about doing a combined event with both communities together. So tonight, we're going to be talking about how AI is redefining product and design roles. And so we've got a panel of a bunch of different disciplines that'll be talking to Curtis about how roles are changing in their part of the industry. So excited to be here tonight. And I used AI to create this lovely poster for the event to share with Full Sail students. Do we have any Full Sail students here tonight that are here as students? Any hands? No? I know we got a few folks. I know we got a few folks from Full Sail tonight. So I just wanted to say a big thank you for hosting us tonight in this lovely, lovely venue, the Treehouse. And so I'd like to invite up Dr. Leese to come and say a word or two about Full Sail.
Hello, everybody. How are you all doing tonight? Hi, my name is Dr. Becca Leese. I am the program director for the user experience program here at Full Sail. I am very happy and excited to welcome you all to our Treehouse space here. And also, one of the things that we do here at Full Sail is we like to make sure that we are teaching the right things. And as UX experts, we would love to solicit your feedback about what you're doing in your job. So I'm going to leave my business cards up at the front. We are looking for program advisory committee members to help us and shape the future of students coming out of Full Sail. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me and we can have you join our PAC committee. All right, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for hosting us tonight. I feel really spoiled to be in this amazing venue tonight, and also to have like drinks and pizza back there, which is something we don't usually have at the Downtown Orlando UX meetup. So many thanks to Alamo Labs, and Martin Alamo is back there from Alamo Labs. They sponsored the food and drink that we have tonight, and he was also my partner in crime in making this whole thing happen. It wouldn't have happened without collaboration with Martin on getting the ProductTank event created and collaborating on getting this panel together. So thanks so much, Martin, for making it happen in many different ways. So I know a lot of you are here from ProductTank, and a lot of you are here from Downtown Orlando UX. So we just want to talk a little bit about both of our groups. So at Downtown Orlando UX, we're a monthly meetup, just like ProductTank. And our mission since the very beginning of when we started meeting is to create opportunities for anyone to learn and share knowledge about the field of user experience. That can be people in the industry, it can be people in engineering, it can be people in product, it can be students that are looking to learn more about the field. We're just interested in bringing together people who are passionate about user experience to learn more and network with one another. So that's what we do. As of last month, the meetup has been around for 11 years now here in Orlando. It started as Downtown UX, and then eventually we changed our name to Downtown Orlando UX because we realized we had a lot of people from outside Orlando coming, and Downtown UX wasn't specific enough. But yeah, we're so glad to be combining together with ProductTank tonight. And on the DOUX side, our organizer crew, a lot of us are here. Amy Huizenga, Matt Lavoie couldn't make it tonight. Wes Brown is back there as well. So is Abhishek, and then I'm Jason Beard. We love to connect with anybody who wants to talk about UX. And more importantly, anyone who wants to speak at a future event, whether you want to talk about product management or UX or some kind of connection with what you're doing in your industry, we are always looking for speakers for future events. Or if you just have any questions about the field, we'd love to connect with all of you. So with that, I'll hand it over to Martin to talk us through a little bit about ProductTank.
Thank you, Jason. Hi, everyone. So let's make a little sense here. Who are people that usually attend Downtown Orlando UX events? Let's see. Good. Who are people that usually attend ProductTank Orlando events? Meetups. Okay. Now, who are people that is the first time attending Downtown Orlando UX event? Good. And people who is the first time attending ProductTank Orlando? Wow, a lot of good. Oh, an applause for you. Thank you very much. Good. I hope you get the value from here. Our mission from ProductTank is to foster collaboration and growth within local product management communities all around the world. And there are many communities around the world, 404 groups actually, in different countries, concentrated in Europe and US, but not only here. In Europe, there's everywhere that there are people interested in products. About 47,000 RSVPs last year. So a pretty nice community of where we learn together a lot of things about product management, of course, and similar industries around that. I'm part of the co-organizer group. Sully is not able to be here today, but we really enjoy working with Sully. Curtis, you will know Curtis in a little bit, and myself, that I hope you have a good time and enjoy the event, okay? Thank you, Curtis. Here you are, Curtis.
Actually, I'll go ahead and hand it off.
Okay, so would our illustrious, two of our illustrious panel please come up? Great. Actually, I got one extra.
Yeah.
All right.
That one.
Panel. So we have a panel discussion tonight, and I'll get us rolling. I will queue up some questions, and then we're going to turn it over to the room in about 25 minutes or so, but maybe we should introduce our lovely panelists. But I'm going to start over here with Leah. Leah is Leah Herbert, Dr. Leah Herbert, has a PhD in counseling. Thank you. Counseling and therapy. She is currently senior UX researcher at a top workforce development organization, and she's working on agentic AI and the future of work with millennial and Gen Z populations. And a fun fact is she's been to over 30 countries. World traveler. Welcome aboard, Leah. Thank you. To my left, Anardo Cuello, product owner, UX designer at Elevate Health Technologies, working on prior auth, financial assistance workflows. He's basically actively applying AI in all that they do at Elevate Health. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And an interesting thing about Anardo is he has danced salsa for 5 years and even got to perform on a professional salsa dancing team.
That's right.
Arriba! Nice. You're going to see this is a creative bunch. Online, we have Elliot Polite. Am I pronouncing that right, Elliot? Okay, good. Elliot Polite is the principal UX designer at Home Depot. Anyone ever shop at Home Depot? Of course. And he is reimagining customer experiences while helping lead how AI accelerates their design work. And before he got into front-end dev and UX, he was a touring metal drummer, and in a wild twist, he shared a stage with Paul McCartney. Awesome. Finally, we have actually a Full Sail professor who unfortunately a little under the weather tonight, but Kim, thank you for pressing on and making it anyway for us. She is UX professor at Full Sail, and she is also the brand new head of UX at Allegius, hope I pronounced that right, or Allegius Technologies. And the fun fact about Kim is that as the lead singer of a country band, she once performed on a flatbed 18-wheeler for a gang of Hell's Angels. Is that true?
That is true.
Love it, love it. All right, so I'm going to start with just a quick, how are we feeling round? The kind of the sentiment round. So how are you all feeling about design in the AI moment? I mean, just give me like thumbs up, thumbs down, or somewhere like just shake your thumb in the middle if it's somewhere in between. Oh, we got 2 thumbs up from, whoa, okay. We got oh, interesting. So our remotes are double thumbs up, and we've got some mixed sentiments here. Okay, I'm just do the same for the room. Room, how are you feeling about AI as in design and product at this moment? You got double thumbs up, somewhere. Oh, a little mixed, but a lot of thumbs up in the audience here. All right. All right, one other easy question to get started. I'll start with Leah. What's a favorite AI tool you're using right now? Something that you've maybe used in your workflow and just anything.
Oh, good question. Well, one I recently talked about is pretty new on the market, really great. It's called Sesame AI. It's a personal assistant auditory configuration AI. It's getting a lot of buzz in the Silicon Valley world, and I used it today, and its predictions were like 10 out of 10.
Nice, nice, very cool. And Anardo, what's a fave tool you're using these days?
To me, it's definitely a classic, which is Claude, especially Claude projects. Its project context is bar to none. Nobody can touch it. That's mine.
And at what point in the workflow would you use a Claude project?
So I use Claude project right at the beginning of the workflow. In fact, I record every single meeting and take that context video and transcript into it, and it can handle that context. And you can be deep months into a project and reference it back into the context, and it has such a massive context window in the project files, it will find anything and bring it back. The trade-off to that is that they limit the context window in the actual chat itself to 2,000 characters, 2,000 tokens. So once you reach that, you have to switch a conversation, but it can always reference those files every day, all day.
Yeah, awesome. Claude projects, nice. Kim, how about you? Fave AI tool you're using?
Yeah, actually, the same Claude, and Otter AI as well. So I think best when I'm thinking out loud, and that isn't always structured and sensical. So those tools really help me to just get it all out of my brain and then structure it. And because it can reference past chats and projects, it can speak in my voice pretty well. And then I can layer in deep research if I want to. So I'm able to think and do what I'm really good at best really quickly.
Nice, thank you very much. Elliot, same for you.
Sure. For me, honestly, like I heard this, I was like, there's two that I use a lot. One is gonna be Midjourney. And that's because a lot of my time is spent sitting in PowerPoint slides, and there's nothing better to use to really create empathy and like tell stories of the work we're trying to do than Midjourney that's out there. I can create real characters, I can animate them, I can really tell a real story when sometimes that's difficult depending on the room you're in. The other was Figma Make, which is Claude on the backside. I mean, that's been like pretty monumental in terms of how accelerating like how we're ideating our projects right now and how we're like testing early solutions. So like we're really trying to like start closing that gap between like validation and like real-time testing. So those are the two that I would call out like immediately.
Nice, thank you very much. Elliot, I'm going to stay with you. I'd like for this next sort of section to talk about how maybe the core responsibilities of your job are changing, or maybe they're not. In your, to the extent you can share in your capacity there at Home Depot, just what are you observing, like signals and trends, do you think, if you're using AI, as you said, for wireframes or design variations and telling stories, is it shifting what design actually means? Is design changing?
Yeah, I think it's definitely changing, right? I mean, anytime we look at like things like Figma Make, we're seeing that like the actual craft of pushing pixels is changing. But the way we solve the problems and how we collaborate and make things human isn't. So like it really helps to like have like a really like iron focus on the things that really matter. So on our side of the house, like what's changed in AI, it's taken a lot of like the weight of those prioritization efforts, the things that take a lot of menial time off of our shoulders, and have really kind of pushed us more towards like orchestrating and making decisions faster. Like I said, it's still in its infancy, right? Like a lot of this stuff is still kind of like budding up, but I've had some really, really good examples of like when things are like just locked in, it brings confidence all along our teams, our leadership. And so, yeah, it's really, really helping like reshape how we make our how we talk about design and how we're making decisions based on those designs with AI. So,
is anybody else thinking they're a designer now because they got the same tools?
I think that that's going to be a natural thing. And I think that that's what's kind of happening, right? We have like product and UX, especially are kind of like really starting to see these kind of overlap in the craft. But I think that that's why we have to be super intentional about the relationship that we have and the part that we play in all this and how we orchestrate this together. Because there is some like really cool magic in there when you realize that like, what if I didn't have to spend time going over menial tasks and doing all this kind of like rooted effort that would take me, let's say a week to go through. And what if I could free some of that time up to actually work with my product partner, create that relationship and spend more time with our customers? I think that's
the idea.
That's the thing that we feel, at least on my end.
Nice, thank you. Kim, I'm going to go to you next. I noticed on your own website, my friend, it said your website was made with Figma, caffeine, and a dash of AI.
Yep.
And I love that. And so I'm going to ask you to put your UX educator hat on when you're teaching design. How are you helping students use a dash of AI and maybe not, a lump?
Oh, yeah. The whole spice rack. So just reiterating that AI doesn't replace the craft. It amplifies it, and it's a tool that needs to be used well, just like any other tool. So Figma does not make a designer, Word does not make a writer, a hammer does not make a carpenter, and AI does not make anybody anything. It just helps you do the things that it's good at doing. And it helps you do the things you're good at doing. So like, this is why I love design operations, and AI is like, it's getting the crap out of the way that people don't like, or that they're not good, or that is really kind of a waste of their talent and skill and energy, and letting them do things where they shine. Um, and that critical thinking, like, design is good design. It always has been. I've done this for 25 years, and things have changed a lot in that time. But what hasn't changed is asking the hard questions, asking why, solving problems, doing the thinking that goes behind design. That is all still basically the same.
Okay, so you're not being kind to the students. You see them digging deep, taking their time, asking deep questions, or are they sometimes rushing?
I also make them sketch their final project with pen and paper, which
love
gets some
that.
groans, but that is always has been, probably always will be my first design tool and my favorite.
Love it. Thank you. Great. Leah, over to you on the research. You're more in the research space. In similar vein, as a research manager, how are you thinking about where AI adds value in that research process, and or maybe even sometimes where it can introduce bias, and how do you mitigate that?
Yeah, that was my presentation today at work, so it's
Oh,
pretty
easy
top of
peasy.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think responsible AI is so important, and it's evolving, and it's global. A lot of times we're thinking about our own country, our own district, but I'm looking at what's happening in the EU. I'm looking at what's happening in Spain and Italy, who are a bit more advanced in that mechanism. I also think keeping your industry in context is like top of mind. So I'm in education, right? We have HIPAA, we have PPI information, we have FERPA, we have a lot of legal implications of a data breach or something getting out that shouldn't get out. So it kind of makes the bar a lot higher for how we prompt, and we may feed in a document to Claude, but does Claude own that? Does Claude train their AI systems through that? And that's something that I really encourage my team, encourage my mentees that I work with to be really cautious in terms of not only the files that you're putting in, but you're prompting and being really careful with private information, your address, your phone number, things that you wouldn't necessarily give a stranger in this room, but you'll put into a chat GPT prompt. So I think that's a really important mechanism to take into account.
But how is it changing research for you, or the expectations on you as a researcher? Are you being asked to do more? Like, oh, come on, it's so easy. Just, vibe code that or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the UX research field has been massively affected by layoffs.
Right.
I am a senior researcher, so there is a level of like, you got this. You do mixed methods.
Right.
You could do the work of 3 novices, and that's kind of a trend I'm seeing. When we all know the value is in collaboration, and the value isn't in burnout. And I always say AI will automate, but it doesn't replace. And work is just shifting. I tell everyone 2026 is not going to look like 2025. And are you ready for how it's not going to look that way?
Yeah. Thank you. Anardo, we're hearing a theme here. Augmentation, not replacement.
That's right.
You wear both product designer, product owner hats. You're using AI, Claude projects, obviously, as you said. I'm sure you're, user stories, roadmaps, all of that stuff. Are your leadership team's expectations changing for what they expect you to kick out? And how is it changing sort of your workflow?
I haven't really seen leadership themselves expectation change, but what has changed is how the relationship with other roles is working.
Right.
A really good example is that transition. So as I went through from UX only to doing both UX and product ownership, one of the things that happened is that as I was creating these PRDs, right, gathering all this context, having this meeting, creating these requirements, I started noticing that the same thing that was happening when I was in more mature organizations, where a lot of the time they weren't reading these PRDs. The cognitive hit was too high. And I realized, like, I'm looking at this all wrong. I'm still gathering that context. I'm still creating this document. But I thought to myself, I have this incredible, powerful tool now. Can I flip it on its head? So now, when I work with developers, I give them very exact context. They don't have to sit and read through a massive PRD in order to create features. I'm able to go through with Claude, right? I was like,
Yeah.
I want you to take this PRD, flip it on its head, create all the stories, and add exact to-do lists and put details and that do a deep link into the PRD exactly to the exact location, like a href link down, and give them that. They don't have to do it anymore, right? So that's how it's changing. I'm giving a lot exact context to people. They don't have to take a massive cognitive hit. I can hold the context. And I think what's changing is like, I'm the source of truth now. I hold the context.
Right.
Because these tools, if you're noticing, they're limiting the context, right? They're starting to charge you more for the context. The context is too big. So like, there has to be somebody that has it. And I've seen that being the change.
Interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Leo.
Follow up I wanted to make too is I think a untapped area of AI that we're not using enough is communication. So I liked what you said about I'm going to tell my developers something in a much shorter way as opposed to like a longer document. And how many of us are working with like diverse stakeholders? Like I know for me, I work with the C-suite, and then I'm also working with students, and then I'm also working with instructional designers, with all three different communication styles and needs and preferences. So that's another advantage or tip I'd give you in terms of using AI to speak to those diverse stakeholders and their needs and telling the story at what's at stake in a way that they can hear and they can understand.
I'm so glad you did it, because that's exactly where I was going next. And I was going to ask you that question. And especially with your background in counseling and therapy, is that coming in useful in this reimagining of communications, internal communications?
Oh, definitely.
Could you tell us maybe a case in point or a story where you kind of worked through some of these new communications or handoff challenges and smooth that flow?
I don't have a communication challenge, but I have found it helpful as like a thought partner.
Yeah.
In a sense of I know what my CTO likes and their preferences, and it's a little different than my normal ways of writing and storytelling. And I think I've been working to find the middle in terms of this is what we need to get done and the budget and the proposals and all that good stuff. So I found it really helpful in that regard. And I think just still being an observer, like getting outside, closing the laptop, talking to people, watching the news. I think something that we have that AI doesn't have is taste. And I don't know if you guys have heard the concept of taste in AI.
Yeah.
It's like a hot topic right now. But that's something we uniquely have. We have context, we have insight. I say like all the time, right? Like we have our own quirks and things of that nature. And that's something that AI doesn't have. And that's something that you should build as a professional, as a senior leader. And I think that's something I take a little nod from psychology and developing that sense of self, that authenticity that AI can't really have.
Thank you. I mean, for any of you, I'm just, as we think about cross-functional dynamics and these handoffs, maybe not all these teams are moving at the same pace. I mean, developers are going with their tools at maybe, I don't know, just round number, 10x the speed they used to go. Maybe you're 2, 3x faster. Is there a cadence mismatch between, and then you've got on the other end, product market fit and go to market. Are these things, where's still the friction in the handoffs and the workflows? Maybe Kimberly or Elliot, if you see any of these kind of frictions, are we still figuring this part out?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and it took me a long time in my design career to kind of learn this the hard way. So this is one thing I try to teach my students early is that people have different motivations and backgrounds, and they care about different things in this whole development process than you might. And I've found AI really helpful in translating things from them to me so I can understand it, and backwards as well. I can just put all my thoughts out there and then be like, how would this best make sense to a Python developer, or how would this best make sense to the head of product somewhere? Like what do they probably want to hear and care about? And I even will give it specific like LinkedIn profiles of people to help me even further.
Nice. Elliot, any thoughts? Oh, sorry, my friend, you got it on mute.
There we go. Yeah, that's the standard now. So we're talking about the friction we kind of see every day, right? And honestly, like some of the stuff that like surprises me and like probably a lot of conversations I have are not usually as much like friction in the sense of like, oh, with the products or with anything like that versus independently people not being comfortable and being afraid to kind of step up and say, hey, I don't understand how to use this properly. And having that conversation is a tough one because nobody wants to admit that, like, hey, safe place, like I feel like this has like gotten beyond my skill set or like I'm not using it every day. Is that wrong? Those conversations are like probably some of the most important ones because right now is like the perfect time to pick it up. It's getting easier to use, but you can't be embarrassed about a technology that's moving this fast and feeling like a little bit behind sometimes. Because I mean, there's nights I stay up just like I learn about something new and I'm like, man, what's the impacts of that? And it's a perfect like it's the time to be human now and like have those conversations, feel comfortable with one another, and like that's like an internal friction I feel that I'm always kind of surprised of that I'm like, man, more people should say this, it's okay, but I get it in this professional space that like AI is taking over in terms of a lot of big conversations and to say, hey, how do I do it is hard, and I do my best to make them feel comfortable and say, hey, let's figure out how to do this at the way you need it to work because
Right.
AI is very it does a task for you specifically, but your task may not be the same as the person next to you. So like you have to find that like individuality and how they're going to use it, make them feel comfortable. So
Right.
that's the friction I feel. Yeah.
Nice, thanks. And I see Leah wants to chime in, and then Kim's got her hand up too. I mean, I'm really curious about even just new patterns. Like, let's say Anardo comes up with an amazing PRD or whatever he calls it these days. It's not a PRD anymore. And someone says, "What were the prompts you used?" You going to share those prompts? Like, how transparent are we all going to be about our process? Because it makes it so glossy and so easy to produce something, and it looks so perfect and so finished, but it's messy getting there. And everybody really learns from the messy middle. And I don't know if you're experiencing that, Leah, or maybe you had another thought you wanted to chime in, but
I had another thought, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Let me hit this one because it's
Yeah, go ahead.
interesting. Because like the first part, right? One of the friction points that had come up is this new expectation of perfection, like right at the start, right? And one of the things that happens specifically with interaction design, AI will create an interaction, but it will miss things that we learned a long time ago. For example, like on click, showing it in a face, and then hitting the API, loading and placing it. What AI would do is that it would try to hit the API at the same time trying to open the interface, and there will be a lag, right? But they expect it to be perfect. And that's something that I'm teaching the team to manage now, because it's not going to know these things we learn like for the last decade. It's not going to know to hit an API correctly. It's not going to know to create an API that performs. So you create a table and you try to serve freaking 100,000 records on the first time, right?
Right.
It won't paginate it, right?
Right.
That's one example. Anyways, first part.
Love it. Kim, you had your hand up. Did you want to chime in on that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my voice might totally go, but hopefully not.
Hang in there.
I'm like eating Manuka honey like crazy over here. A couple of things. So, kind of going along with what we were just talking about, but about intuition, and I know people have talked about intuitive AI, but thinking about the problem with that, like even if you just look at like Bloom's taxonomy, which not everyone loves, but it's been around forever, of like how we learn, right? So you learn, you remember stuff, you memorize stuff, then you understand it, then you apply it, then you analyze, then you evaluate, and then you create. And intuition is not some woo-woo thing. It comes from wisdom. It comes from doing all of those things enough that it just kind of goes into your gut, and it actually physically, neuroscientifically does actually go into your gut in a very interesting process. And AI doesn't do that. It stays right at that surface of learning.
Right.
And because of our cognitive biases, we think it's really smart because it knows a lot of stuff. And then the other thing I was going to say is like patterns, lots of P words I wrote down, patterns, processes, prompts. I was asked to look at a prototype of an application that was made with Lovable by a product manager. And it looked, and it was pretty good. Like I told him, I would have given him a B if it had been turned into me.
Yeah.
But as I started looking through it, like, yeah, it looked nice and glossy, but each page was done separately and it never kind of was circled back and looked at the whole thing to make sure it was cohesive. So there were like 4 different button types and weird hover states. And it was like, why are we calling this 4 different things? And
Right.
and one thing, this person's in India right now, but once he gets back, I want to see the prompts that he did. I want to see like, what did you tell Lovable to do? And like, how did you do it? And if you told it to go back and like smooth things out, would it do a good job of that? I don't know.
Right. Thank you very much. Yeah. And, in the spirit of perfection, the other side of that is failure. Anybody willing to share something that really you tried, you thought, this is going to work? Oh my gosh, this is the perfect use for AI or Gen AI. And it was like, oh man, this didn't work. Putting
Yeah.
you guys on the spot. Go ahead, Kim.
Actually, so I'm like, okay, let's do this experiment. And it was a 3-hour experiment where I wanted to throw my computer across the room. I'm like, okay, this prototype was built in Lovable using AI. I'm going to see if AI can analyze it for me and just see how that goes. And because it was responsive and all this stuff, so I did my usual like video. It couldn't read the video, even though it told me like, oh, if you put it here, I can watch the video. It couldn't. And then it was like, just take some screenshots. So I took 90 screenshots to capture like all the different breakpoints and whatever. And it was like, oh, you can only upload this many files. And I was like, why didn't you tell me that? Like, right. So I'm yelling at Claude and like just getting really frustrated. And I tried I had Claude and Chat GPT at the same time, and Chat GPT failed like within a few minutes. And Claude, I mean, we kind of got there, but that was not pretty.
Thank you for that transparency. Anyone else want to?
Yeah, one of them has been interesting is like Claude has these new connectors, right? And we're trying to connect to Atlassian, right? To be able to upload all of our requirements very clearly to Confluence. And one of the things that happened is we're like, okay, so make an update. What it would do is like, it will post the entire page. It wouldn't do like segment changes. So we started overriding all the work we've done, right? So sometimes a lot of these new MCPs and APIs, they're not like perfect, they're not ready. And we'll they'll have very simple APIs, and we just post the whole thing, and just if you have any custom edits, we just delete them. But that's an example of a total fail, because we're trying to connect up to Confluence, right? And then pull Confluence down into Figma Make. And then when we push, we broke, and Figma Make context broke, like, oh, no.
Ouch.
So yeah, that sucked. Wait.
Nice. Perfect. Do you think and this for any of you, is there ever any confusion, like kind of the classic Abbott and Costello, who's on first? Like, it sounds like you guys say that product, loosely designed product, you're the storytellers, you're the keeper of the context, but doesn't everybody have their hands on the steering wheel right now? Is there ever any confusion about who owns it when AI is creating the output? Is this a concern or a question for anyone? Elliot, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, I think that naturally the ownership bounds are just things that do happen, right? I mean, that's the standard way we do product today is, hey, you've got an owner, you have a product owner, you have these things that like are owned in perspective. And what AI is doing is kind of breaking across the little silo across the side and saying, hey, we each bring something to this. And the way that we kind of, one, we have to be super intentional about bringing the parties together, because we do each have an expertise that we need to have there. We have business acumen at the table. We have empathy at the table. We have technical expertise at the table.
Right.
But I think what we got to be very careful of is letting ownership decide like how we continue to work versus like letting this kind of like evolution that we're kind of going through do it, because it's a super tough thing when you're sitting and go like, well, my thing spit out code, and the engineer's going like, that's absolute garbage. I'm not going to touch that. That's a normal thing right now, because we're still in that kind of not quite mature stage yet. We're going to get there,
right?
But that's why it's super important that we need to be like as set up right now as we can for when we get to that like that silver bullet that everybody's looking for of like scalable code that comes out of one thing and goes to the other. If we don't have just the foundational process down now, then we're
Right.
just hurting each other in the future because now it's going to be now it can do it and you're going to have all these overlaps and clashes of
You get it messy.
mindsets and
Yeah.
ideas and like gosh there's so much harmony when everybody understands that like hey you mean I don't have to do that thing but I can focus here. People
Right.
start kind of understanding that when they release ownership and go, hey, I'm in
Right.
here to just make cool stuff and like how do I best implement myself into that? And like
Yeah.
that's where you see success and that's where you also see huge failures as well.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Leo.
I think sometimes can sometimes pitch AI as this like democratization, like, you know, the equal playing field, we
Right.
all can prompt. But I think it's important from an ethical perspective to realize that when a product is free, we are the product.
Yeah.
And to realize that these AI systems, IP is all over the place. You know, I'm a researcher. I have published articles. I have books. My stuff. If AI scans it and then somebody else uses it, and you know, there's no.
It's a mess.
It's a mess, and in other instances, a lawsuit. But because it's AI prompt now, it's okay. So I
Right.
think it's really important for us to also consider elements of IP, of really looking through these prompts, of looking at hallucination and toxicity rates, really combing through sources. Can you cite every single thing in this prompt? Can you show me where specifically XYZ came from? If you have documents in there, show me what part of the document XYZ came from. The chats are not predisposed to tell you, I don't know, right?
That's
So
for
if I
sure.
don't tell you I don't know, I can make up. So I just want to have that caveat in there.
Indeed, indeed. Yes. I want to take it to the audience here in a minute, but last area I want to get into is kind of the where. I think I'll turn it to Kim first because you're an educator. You're working with people, learning design, learning UX. You know what's going to change for these youngins coming up. You know, Google. We've already heard Google is already making it standard procedure on job interviews for product managers. Prove you can vibe code. Like that's already standard. Do you think there's changing interviews for designers? Like, you know, what are the changing expectations for people coming in?
Yeah, there definitely is. And you know, part of that, like I saw content and research get hit before designers even like getting laid off because they're like, we have ChatGPT now, we don't need writers. And then they were like, oh, oops. Okay, we need the writers back, but we need them to know how to use ChatGPT and understand AI. So, you know, and like this new role I have, I would not have gotten if I didn't understand AI and hadn't been kind of digging into it because it's just a part if you're trying to compete in really anything, you're competing against other people who are using it, but you need to use it well. So MIT came out with their mid-year kind of research report on the state of AI. And what they showed is that companies are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on AI and getting very little ROI
Right.
because they're
Yep.
just throwing it at things that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, right now it's messy and people are like, it's the end of UX. But I'm like, once everyone figures out like, oh, there was a lot of hype around this and it actually doesn't do what we thought it did, they're going to come back. You know, and as someone who is more on the information architecture, content strategy, functional development side of design than like the visual,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about that because I'm like, people are realizing what design has always been about. It's always been about solving problems and
Nice.
doing things for people and working together and collaborating and
Mm-hmm.
asking questions and doing the hard work, you know, and even thinking about like talking about ownership and stuff. I think, you know, we can see some really great things throughout human history that have been created because there was that egalitarian ownership. Look at open source coding. This is one reason I've always loved
Right.
developers, right? Like the open source coding creates some great things. Even like Wikipedia, which was looked down on, you know, has been shown to
Mm-hmm.
be actually very accurate
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many people in on it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's an interesting thing of like trying to protect IP, which should be and it should be ethically used, but then also like trying to get the best out of everyone for everyone's sake.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Go ahead,
So
Anardo.
I have an interesting thought on that, right? If you think about accountants, right? There used to be a point where things like spreadsheet came out, right? And accountants would be great at arithmetic, and that was their main skill. And then that kind of got completely automated. Nobody was better than that sheet. But the demand for the accountant actually went up, right? So like that induced demand, I think it may happen to our own industry, right? As we generate a lot of this kind of like amazing experiences, if you will, one of the things that's really becoming apparent, like you mentioned, is what UX is really about. A lot of these interfaces are very hard to use, right? They have all these crazy interaction patterns and they're inconsistent and the applications have no integrity and they need us to give it that source. Like AI does not make good judgment. It doesn't have any particular interest and it needs us to give that to it, right?
Nice.
So I think that will continue and I think there will be induced demand more of us in
Love
the
it.
future, in my opinion.
Love it. All right. Oh, go ahead, Leo.
I was going to just quickly add to what I'm seeing from a UX research perspective and
Yeah.
UX design, and I work for EdTech.org, and I train younger designers and interns, researchers as well, is a lot of, and I work with Fortune 500 companies as well, so it might be a little biased because they have their own big systems, but similar, like Google wants vibe coding. We're seeing from a lot of the bigger companies, they're asking interview questions. How do you use AI in your workflow?
Right.
Give me an example of a time AI has optimized your, outcome. You gave me 3 portfolio examples. I need one of those examples to be AI related or AI focused. So I'm telling all my early career, younger professionals, start getting AI projects. You need to interact with it some way, somehow. Because that's just where the industry is going, and folks do want to see that. Even if you fall on one way or the other, because it's a spectrum,
Right.
being comfortable enough to have a project, have a portfolio piece somewhere in there that's AI related could be very, very, very helpful.
Nice. Thank you. And Elliot, thank you. You see your hand up. Go for it, and then we'll turn it to the audience.
Yeah, of course. I just want to add something on that front of we really kind of add kind of what you were saying a second ago. We got to be really focused on humanizing how our experiences feel. That's the thing we bring to the party. Like when we come in, it's like, hey, what do we do? Because right now what we're seeing a lot of is that designs are starting to either become overgeneralized or stale for the most part. And we call it acceptable mediocrity. It's a trap. We have to resist that. Yeah, it's easy, but what makes something delightful is different across each and every single one of the people we work for and or your own company if you're doing that. And that way there's still authentic, an authentic you that's in there. And I think that we're seeing a lot of that in general across, which I just want to make sure, I heard what he had said and I was like, you know what, that's a really good point because you're talking about how do we get around overgeneralization and the heart of what we're doing. And I think that UX is the prime candidate for bringing that heart back in and making people go, man, that was a cool experience. It's you dang right it is. We're UX.
That's right.
That's what we bring to the party. So yeah.
Sure. Quick
I was
word,
gonna
and then we'll
quickly
go.
add
Yeah.
bringing the heart, but also the heart and the business value.
Right.
Because I think an issue, and I'm speaking as a UX researcher and as someone in a field that's impacted by massive layoffs, I think sometimes we're the empathy, we're the heart, we tell the moments of delight, we're the users, we're the advocates, but we also have to understand a profit loss statement. We also have to be able to tell our story 5 different ways
Right.
in one sentence under 30 seconds. And I think that's something I really tell a lot of my junior and early career professionals that are climbing up the ladder of that communication skill is also a part of empathizing and advocating for the user
Nice.
and being the champion.
Right. So beauty, but wrapped in strategy. It's design and product coming together. That's our theme tonight. So how about folks out here? Questions for our wonderful panel right up front.
Hello, everyone. As a UX designer who also uses AI a lot in my work, a topic that you guys have not mentioned is AI burnt out. I think Kimberly mentioned a good point that with the help of AI, it explodes the way we get to tackle many tasks really fast. But because we are tackling every task really fast, I'm curious, how are we preventing AI burnt out, even in your teams? The same, because right now, sometimes I can feel the same drain or addicted yet unsatisfied state where like doom scrolling on Instagram. And then I feel huge burnt out after that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
That's a good question. Can I start? Actually, which one of the questions that is being looked at, right, is like this fear that the AI is going to do our workflows for us, right? Or that workflow will increase in speed. But I think one of the questions not being asked is the workflow may disappear completely, right? And that's what I'm noticing in my own job. Like we went from a period of time where that's going to happen to you, right? Where you're starting to design faster and faster, and then design is just going to start slowing down. Where we're now prototyping first and designing second. So switching in his head. And what's happening is how much of the project you're taking on, you have to work with your team to spread it out. And that's something that in a lot of ways falls on us product managers, right? To help design. It's like, you're gonna take this, you're gonna take this, because the context is just too big. And also in tools like Figma Make, right? And even some of these other like prompting tools, like your project can just get too big and then it's just gonna crash because there's no API that performs, right? So like just break it, try to work with your peers and start breaking the work up because you cannot take all of it. It's just too much.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
Other thoughts on AI burnout?
I think, is it working?
Yeah.
Okay. I think going back to what I said earlier, from like a neuroscience perspective, like changing your workspace, I work remote, but changing your workspace, getting outside, like there's tons of studies on like what happens when we're looking at a screen for how many hours. And a lot of us are knowledge workers. Like we're not outside roughing and toughing or doing things of that sort. So it is easy for our brain to kind of spiral. And then you add stress on top of that, caffeine on top of that, and anxiety, and you have a really bad cocktail. So I would highly recommend that. And then number two, collaboration. Like as a researcher, it could be really easy for me to like, I want to go in my tunnel because I'm tired of meetings. But I do find a ton of value in sitting with different stakeholders, sitting with people that are in completely different teams than me, getting their perspective on a problem or a project. So I think sometimes that also helps break up the day and kind of give more focus to things.
Love it.
So those two, I would say.
Thank you. Yeah. Elliot, you got a perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it a little bit of a different angle too. And you were talking about AI burnout, and I think I agree. I don't think it's burnout as much with AI as much as the internal need to like want to keep performing more and more and more and faster, and that does have mental weight. Like even like in my position, there's a lot of things we have to balance, and if you're using AI to help you move fast, you can't then just say yes to everything that's coming down the line as well. You got to pick and choose what work you're doing, and is it impactful to the business? Is this what I should be like? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now? And is that driving value in like what I'm trying to get at, whether it's my career or for my project that I'm working on? And that kind of touches on like definitely having the business acumen to understand how to make that decision. But you can't keep saying yes just because the tools allow you to move faster. And I think that's something that's just like burnout 101 is just like, if you keep saying yes, you're going to keep feeling the pile and you're not going to get any of the reward because you're just going to spin up. So there's something to keep in mind is like AI will let you move faster, but that's the beautiful part is that it's taking off some of that weight. So you don't have to keep like, you have to keep saying yes all the time. Use it to give yourself that nice breath and focus on the things you enjoy doing, like either it's designing or researching, but like do that work, but allow it to take some of the menial stuff off. And that'll kind of help protect that burnout.
Yeah.
I just
Final word
quickly
on
add like urgency or versus importance. Like sometimes everybody's like, oh, this is important. Very few things are important and other things are urgent, but that helps a lot as well.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Other questions out there?
I had a question. So being an academic myself, there was something I was always curious about. And just a little bit of background, I got my doctorate in aerospace engineering last year. Thank you. So the question I had was, there was this fear that I had, even my colleagues, all of us had, is that a lot of us that we did during our doctoral research can now be done by AI.
Yeah.
Now, where do you draw the line that, hey, when professors, or say, for example, in academia, when they give work, this is doctoral level work that only doctorates can do with AI. This is master's level work that only master's level people can do with AI. Where do you draw that line?
Oof.
I mean,
Anyone want to take that?
yeah, I mean, at least in our context, right? Especially with software, AI cannot do business strategy, right?
Yet.
It just cannot, because it would agree with you on everything. Everything's, yeah, it's a great idea. Oh, you're so brilliant, you know? And I've tested it, right? For example, like we have a piece of software and I tell us like, what if I make this piece of the software a loss leader, right? Because we give us this data and then we can use that data to like do recommendations back, and those recommendations can be what makes the money, right? It's like, oh, that's a great idea for this and that. It's like, well, how about this? It's like, oh, you're right, it's not a good idea. It cannot do that. So that's its limit. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I think too, as an academic that moved to industry, and I like it so far, I think that we bring a lot to the table. I think going through a doctoral program and passing a dissertation is its own trauma and beast. If you can get through that, you can do anything. So that's its own bridge that has to cross. And I would say getting really comfortable with the interdisciplinary, the cross-functional. My degree was more on the psychology side of things and quantitative, and now I'm in education, So I think having that flexibility will serve you well, but I still think like research is a strong skill. I have tried all the GPTs and whatever, and I still think a 10 toes down strong researcher can still do an amazing job.
I'll just push back slightly.
Okay.
Like you look at what Google Co-Scientist is aiming to do. Have you seen Co-Scientist?
I haven't seen Co-Scientist.
It's basically working to produce hypotheses. And so far, the questions and the kind of tests it's recommending are impressive. So at the minimum, I mean, they're calling it Co-Scientist for a reason. Right? They're trying to say it's not your replacement, but it's going to be your Jarvis. Like when the Iron Man is it Jarvis Iron Man has? Yeah, it's I mean, I think with everything we have to put like a yet. It's not there yet, but so I mean, interdisciplinarity sounds like a really good move because AI can go deep in just about any discipline, and so the interdisciplinary kind of questions that you can ask are going to be much more interesting. Is that what you were saying? Kind of just.
Yeah, I have to check out. I never heard of that tool.
It's
so
just
my
one
mind
of
is
several that's coming. It's yeah.
Great, thanks. My name is Anardo Gonzalez. On a side note, I already seen case studies of dissertations being worked on by AI. The question I want to ask is more from a human-centered approach. As we think we're building products, so our customers, our students, our constituents, our stakeholders. Is AI now taking precedence over them? How are you ensuring that they're still part of the loop of this process? Because the AI is going to tell you, it's a sycophant. It's going to tell you all the great things. But our goal is still our constituent, our stakeholders. How are they included from a human-centered approach? Ensure that they are.
So I'm going to pick that one up, especially from a UX UI perspective. So it's interesting because now with this MCP servers, right? We, in our workflow, this is amazing, right? I had an executive ask me, do you have wireframes? It's like, you want me to make wireframes? I can have a full coded prototype in half a sprint and have it running in Maze and get data in the other half and finish the sprint with a concept and data telling you which one's best, right? So that's one way to do it, right? You can MCP straight up to Maze as part of your workflow, right? So as you're creating this prototype, the clock can just create right up, test, come back down, and give you an insight right away, right? And if those insights are interesting, then you can dig in there, right, with AI. But that's one way to keep our users in the loop all the time, especially people who do prior auths, very complicated process, right? To make sure that that medication gets covered. That's really, really important. So yeah, but that's one way we do, at least in the soft side.
I love it. Thank you. Elliot, I see you up here. Yeah.
We'll do, Kim, you can go. You've been so patient. Go ahead.
I'm a teacher and I have 2 little kids, so it comes with the territory. Yeah, I wanted to talk about a couple things. So, AI only knows what we've taught it. And we have taught it things from our knowledge base, from our surface and deep culture. So it has intrinsic bias in it. We tend to like the status quo. We don't like change. That bias is going to make it in. And the business skills are huge. As someone who worked on career frameworks at an enterprise level, leaders across companies are saying business is the #1 skill designers need to know, because that's really how we're going to get ahead. But what is at the core of business? It's solving a problem. It is understanding what people need and want and value. It's the UX honeycomb all over again. I love that these like old things that are so like old fashioned are coming back. And so because of that, like throughout my career, I've seen we want unicorns. Unicorns don't exist. We hate unicorns. Oh no, now we want them again. Now they're full stacked, whatever. Like, and I think it's coming back around to where generalists are really helpful, because you're looking at things broadly and you're making connections across things that may not seem connected at all. And that's where truly like true innovation comes from. And then just one other small point about like the dissertations and, and like learning a skill or knowledge base that then AI takes over later. I believe one of the biggest benefits of education is learning to learn. And going through that process, even if what you learn becomes obsolete later. Now, like, hey, I can jump in and figure things out like I did then. I can ask those questions. I can be completely lost and find my way. And every job I've ever had, I've been like, yeah, I can totally do that. And then I'm like, oh my God, how do I, and I figure it out. And that also makes you a very valuable designer, coworker, team member. That like scrappiness and knowing how to learn and how to ask questions and how to say, I don't have any clue. Can someone help me?
So, back, we talked about, Kim, what kids or anyone coming into the profession or is going to last in the profession is going to need. Is scrappiness one of those things? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, in a couple interview processes, so I worked at Fidelity Investments for quite a while, and that's a huge company with a huge design team. There were like 300 and something designers when I left, 300 and something user researchers, and about that many content strategists. And so people assume that we had all the tools and resources we needed,
right?
That everything was nice and smooth. And they were like, can you be scrappy at this smaller company? And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, that's all we do as designers. They're, like, build this thing, it needs to be this way, but we have none of the components that you need in our content management system, in our design system. And you're like, okay, we can't do tabs or accordion, or we can't even, like, what, okay, and then you have to be like, right. What can we do, and you figure it out. And that's, that's what makes you valuable.
Right. Scrappy's good. Elliot, what's your thought?
Yeah, I think something that you touched on that, like, I'm going to add a flavor into there. The thing that, like, I try to be cognizant of is that, the higher you get up, I think there's this natural worry that, like, people like to just shut the door behind them when they get to, like, I'm not, like, this is my area. This is like, like AI is here. Like, I spent 10 years doing this. If like my favorite thing in the world, honestly, is working with our UX 1s and 2s and like talking to them and like leaving that door open for them to grow, because I think technology is going to continue to change regarding the AI. Yes, that's going to be a huge push. But like we need to make sure not shut the door behind us as we grow.
Love that.
And I think that that's something that, like, I mean, it gets onto the ownership and all the kind of some other things you've touched on today. But like, I love the note of that human piece of like, it's okay to have somebody with you, and it's okay to like teach them what you're doing, because you're going to naturally evolve anyways. You spent time in that role. Right. So that's just something I wanted to add to that from a human.
Oh, super add. So scrappiness balanced by generosity and sharing. That's lovely. Really great. Let's keep going with the audience. At least, how are we doing on time, guys? We still have time for a couple more questions? Where are we at?
10, 15 minutes more.
All right. More questions.
Hey, all. So my name is Hari. I'm a product owner with JP Morgan Chase. And as we are a financial organization, we are controlled by a lot of regulations, PII, GDPR, Luxembourg data, so on and so forth. So we really don't get to use a lot of these AI tools like Claude or whatnot. We have our own LLM, which we use for user story creations and whatnot. Someone in the panel spoke about they have experiences with agentic AIs, because agentic AI was the big buzzword probably like a year or like 6 months ago. Everyone was talking about it. So I wanted to understand, but just wanted to understand if you have automated any of your processes using agents, and what's the feedback on it? Because there have been a lot of developments from an agent's perspective, how they communicate between each other and so on and so forth. But I don't really read a lot of use cases online because maybe they are yet to be implemented or they are just getting invested. Nobody is ready to like go full force into agentic AI. But I just wanted to hear from the panelists if they have implemented something.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone working with agentic workflows?
So we have one model, right, that we trained, and it's particularly for prior authorizations. I can tell you too much about it, right? I think the reason why they're not coming out is because they're doing a lot of private processes, right? But if we get to certain medications, right, that we're hitting with enough frequency, we apply the model to it, right? We know the exact, for example, some payers, they want to know the exact reason why you're doing it. So we want to know things like, has this patient been in this medication before? Like if we can read their medical records and we can find out were they more successful in a certain medication, and then we can write the use case or like kind of like the reasoning why they should stay on that medication, and we can hit the payer with it, right? So to answer your question earlier about how to keep, kind of the user in the role, is like, who are we giving the leverage to, right? That's something we think about too, right? Because this AI tool is very powerful, right? So we enable also like whoever's creating those applications, we give them those agents. It's like, but we keep them in control, right? The agent will say, I'm going to submit this through PAs, but it's like, here's the entire object. What do you think? And then they can cross-reference and say, yeah, that's good. Go ahead and go. But that's how we do it.
Go ahead, Leo.
I would add from like a research perspective, if Gen I is reactive, we put something into prompt and chatbot gives us XYZ. Agentic is proactive, right? It's able to do things autonomously. And we hear autonomous and we get nervous, but it's important to know that like Alexa is agentic. Tesla self-driving cars, agentic. So we're touching it and using it often. It's not this like sky in the clouds. But something I hit home a lot with agentic systems is that when we think about LLM and human in the loop, doing the function is one thing. Doing the function reliably over time in the wild is a whole other thing, right? Doing the function and not leaking company data, doing the function and not having a stereotyped output that offends your user base, and now you're all over Facebook and Instagram news is scary. So I think that's a piece to consider. And then also the piece of like evaluation, right? Are you going to have a separate compliance team? Are you going to do hours of error analysis? What does the red teaming and the backup look like? So I think there's a lot of considerations to think about before doing agentic or before doing automation.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, so one thing that I have seen talked about a lot on LinkedIn and have been asked in interview questions is, if we have agentic AI just creating the best UI for people, whether that's the best content or the best graphics or layout, how does that work? Isn't that kind of getting rid of the need for UI? And it may eventually, as they're saying, as it learns and we can see that it's doing a good job, which we have to keep doing. You can't just set it and forget it. You never should have, but now you really can't. But right now, first of all, you need to create those guardrails. We have to be the voice of reason, and someone has to be looking at the whole thing to say yeah, you can, because it's essentially A/B testing, on steroids, right? It's we're multivariate testing, just going. But someone has to, look over it and be like, it isn't just going completely crazy. And also thinking about say that happens where you have an app and it's constantly changing to the best version. Users don't like it when things change too much, even if it's better. So how is that going to work as far as the cognitive load of the people how much they trust you and, things like that. So there has to be humans in the loop, and we need to be looking at it broadly and specifically, and, continuing to question these things.
Right.
And not just be go be free. And maybe at some point it can, but it's not there right now.
Yeah, well, I'm sure at JP Morgan Chase, they're not going to be rushing to that anytime soon, right? Do you get to use Copilot? No. Not even Copilot? Oh, man. Just your own LLM. Wow. All right, one last question. All the way in the back.
Thanks, Jason. A little bit about me. I'm Abi. I've had 4 years in UX design and 4 years in product management. So this is kind of the perfect talk for me. Recently, my CPO came to me and said, "Hey, Abi, all this vibe coding stuff is kind of perfect for someone like you, right? You know design. We want someone on product to move faster." So ever since I've known this, I've known that product and design are frenemies, right? Like we love each other, but it's never like, I want more control. We should do more of what the user wants, more of what the business wants. So I do see a future where there's just one person on the team, right? Some teams are just product managers. You don't get a designer. Not that the world has fewer designers or product managers, it's just teams wise. You'll just have fewer people. I'm curious, are you seeing that happen on your teams? And also, is that the glorious utopia each of our professions wants, where we just have more control, or is the conflict is what makes great products at the end of the day?
I love that question, because if we keep humans in the loop and the business criterion is minimum number of humans, the minimum would be one. So one-person teams, what do you think, guys? We're going to get down to that? I think the teams are getting smaller, that's for sure.
I think they're definitely getting smaller, there's no doubt, but I think that's what makes your expertise be such a critical factor in this. And I know, we were talking about business acumen earlier, and like elevating the skills that you already have, and understanding the business sense if you're a UXer, and the reverse of like understanding why and what empathy means and what our testing means as a product person. Those things, this is happening regardless, right? They're going to cross over. But there is room for us all to kind of like live in harmony a little bit, whether it's focusing on data or whatnot. But there will be less teams. I can agree with that. But I think that makes your impact as like the contributor that much more important to be one on your A game when it comes to like understanding the values, and then understanding what tools help you get to that value faster and more confidently. So yeah, I don't think it's the utopia, right? But like all of this, we're going to have growing pains on a lot of this, but like what thing, like that changes and revolutionizes how we work. We've done this before. We're going to go through it again, and we will evolve the way we work. I mean, that's how humans work. We'll figure out how we do this, but there will be 100% less teams doing it, because AI will cover the minutia in the middle.
Yeah, smaller teams for sure. Other thoughts?
I was going to add, I don't know about the team of one, but I would say from an entrepreneur context, there's a lot of AI millionaires getting made out there that just are pulling some late nighters and putting together some interesting business cases. So I've seen a lot of that, but one-man teams, I'm not sure. I was just going to add additional context. I do also research on the future of work and like where we're headed and some trends we're seeing. And someone mentioned earlier about, how do we protect the staff, the people, the humans in the midst of AI? And I think unpopular opinion, staying competitive. And honestly, we're moving towards a trend of the portfolio career as opposed to staying in one company for 10, 20 years and collecting a 401k or pension. And I think thinking of the world a lot more globally. I'm seeing a lot of my UXer friends live in Orlando and their companies in Australia, live in Orlando and their companies in Canada, being able to work across different diverse industries. I think just really staying competitive, thinking more closely and seriously about like thought leadership, building in public. How many of us are so afraid to post on LinkedIn, so afraid to put ourselves out there, but it's kind of through those social proofs that end up making rich career opportunities.
Wow. Lovely way to end, I think. How about a round of applause for this great panel? Woo. Thank you.